Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Nadex Morning Analysis. We've actually got some things we would like to talk about today. Again, Brian, we do this every morning at this time, and we talk about hot spots in the market, and we actually have some hot spots in the market today. Before we get into it, first, a quick intro. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me, I've got Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. And this session, as are all of our sessions, are sponsored by our compliance department. Trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone. Any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything that Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your educational purposes. Okay, with that, we've got some news on Brexit. It hasn't really been terribly impactful. The U.S. equity markets are kind of quiet, just off a little bit. There's no news going on there. As I mentioned, the news really is in Brexit, and where we're seeing the action is in the foreign exchange market. So we are definitely going to take a look at a couple of opportunities there where the markets are indeed moving. Let's start off with the euro pound. Brian, why don't you start us off with just a little bit of what's going on, and then let's get into a couple opportunities.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can. Yeah, I think you guys can see that. I can see it on my screen.
Yes.
So obviously, going down to the hottest news. I mean, looking overall in the currency market itself is, I would say, not really hopping whatsoever. In 24 hours, you can see it doesn't look like much is actually happening, but there's been huge movement in the pound affecting the pound dollar, the euro pound, and the pound yen. But as far as everything else, with no economic news, you can see for Tuesday, there's absolutely nothing here. Everything comes in late in the week, and we'll talk about that at the presentation at noon today. But minus 18, again, the euro has no effect with Brexit. 4, minus 5, nothing. Scrolling down, you can see that there has been some updates in Brexit. Starting off quite negative, right? Talking about Johnson saying that the moment may come when is game over for Brexit. And then just 4 hours ago, he said, I'm always hopeful, but I got to be honest, the situation is not looking very good. And then all of a sudden, 8:16 this morning, UK's Gove, he announced that there's an agreement in principle. And this is something that I mentioned yesterday, that we were waiting for them to kind of say, hey, listen, we got a deal that could work. Let's take it back and go back to our governments to make sure that it is okay. Because remember, the negotiators are not the end-all, be-all. They have to come to a deal that they believe is good and the best they can get, and then they go back. Now, what is an agreement in principle? It says we have an idea, let's go back. There's been word and some news that I guess the UK said we will remove what the EU says is illegal in our deal. That's what it takes to get done. But that could also send a mixed reaction to the pound. So this is all great news. Looking at the euro pound, because this is the one that is directly kind of the battleground currency, comparing the two, because we've seen there's no move in the euro. This yellow dot is where we were talking yesterday, and I wanted to bring this up. I know this is what we're going to be talking about more today. This is where we were yesterday, and we mentioned that call spreads are a great way to play this because, again, there is no cap to the top side like there is with a knockout. When we mentioned, chasing a trade when you're already in is not the best way to handle things. Wait for a pullback. Well, here's where we were yesterday. This is the 9 o'clock candle right here, this red down. So somebody was listening to our broadcast because here's the pullback. Here is that weekly call spread that we had talked about yesterday. Here's your 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio drop into the downside. So again, guys, this is why we tell you to make sure you just don't trade binaries, just don't look at knockouts. Look at everything out there because they all have their perks and benefits. Now, here's another setup today. This big red candle, I say big red, it's about 62 pips. The ATR on the 15-minute chart, which is what I'm looking at right now, is only 14 pips. So this is an absolutely huge move, 4 times as much on the, this time frame. What I'm looking for now is a little bit of a retracement back. Large emotional move, large response. As people start to hear it, they're going to start trying to get short this, right? I typically expect to see a bit of a retracement, finding another level, pushing down. Now, I'm looking at kind of 2 levels. Obviously, the 91.34 is a great level. Another minor level today that we could take another short off of is potentially 91.09. But I am still looking for this 90.39 break. And remember, this is not a knockout-based trade here because it's the continuation. This would be a binary call spread. But I do think that there's targets much lower on this one. I think once we have official agreement. Brexit is here. We have an agreement. We will see continued push, at least on this pair, to the downside.
Awesome. So I want to go over to the Nadex platform and actually take a look at that exact setup. Let's start. Here we are with the knockouts. And as Brian mentioned, knockouts got these hard to find levels. This is currently the lowest knockout that we've got. But if we saw some type of a retracement back up as people digest the information, and then you thought it were going to roll over again, there are some opportunities. This is not a terrible setup, but there is one here where now the challenge here would be if it touched the level and you got knocked out and then it rolled over. So the other thing to consider would be call spreads. So let's go ahead and jump over to the euro pound call spreads, and I'm going to take a look at the daily call spreads. Let's just bring them up here and take a look at what we've got. And it's nice because we do shade the region of where these call spreads are, and you can identify where you might want to potentially take a look if you thought this were going to continue to come back a bit, retrace a bit here. There is a call spread in here where, again, now if it were to come back down and touch the lower level, you're not knocked out, and oops, I didn't mean to do that. That's what I wanted to do. You could, if you thought this were going to retrace and you wanted to take a short-term long opportunity, there are some call spreads here. And then if it got up to the levels where Brian we're talking about up here at that 91.30 level, and you wanted to reverse your trade, you could choose something else and potentially reverse your trade. You'll have to take a look around. There are definitely, though, some great setups with these levels in both knockouts and call spreads in the euro pound. All right, with that, I want to keep us moving along so people have a chance to regroup before the US cash equities open. Let's talk a little bit about the pound yen.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting one. And again, a little bit of luck required in this one, but at the same time, it's also a technical based setup. So let me start on the 4-hour. 4-hour wise, you can see that we are stuck inside of that kind of middle, what I call the no man's land, right? And you can see we're just chopping back and forth. You can see this very, very large wick and very small body back and forth. But right now, on a higher time frame level, 130.28 and 137.45 are kind of my top and bottom kind of extreme ranges, long and shorts. Dropping it down, though, you can see that we have some play kind of back and forth. And you can see a prior level that we had talked about in the past, up there around the 139.19, was also an area, again, where sellers have stepped in. They've saved it here, and they saved it again, pushing it down. And kind of my same thinking. Now, here's where I wanted to talk about the timing of things. So we knew that there was going to be Brexit discussions. We knew that Wednesday was the deadline. So as what I mentioned yesterday was Tuesday would probably be the day where we heard something. Okay. Now, this is one of those setups that I think is pretty interesting, and another reason why you guys have to know all your products and understand the bells and whistles in them. Down here at 138.39 or 138.40 was a 15-minute level, and again, it's a 30-minute level as well. We knew that it bounced there before, but as you guys can see, it's stabilized, and again, the launching point for this last one. I want to bring this in again because again, this is a little bit of the education piece of it. Here is the pound yen contract specifications, and this is why this is absolutely super exciting. You guys should definitely look at these. We hadn't heard anything yet. We knew that this was the end of business. Remember, they are 5 hours ahead. It's the end of their business day. Any discussions are going to be done before they go to dinner. Right here is the 2-hour binary contracts. And I always talk about the lower time frames. The strike differential is 10. Why is that important? Here's why. We had a technical setup at the end of the day. Here's where Brexit came out. And again, if Brexit didn't come out, had buyer stepped in, yes. This was a 97 pip move. This was 9 strike prices higher in 15 minutes. Okay? Now, what does that mean for us? We know that sellers have stepped in here in the past. We know this is a highly emotional move, and now you're already starting to kind of see it retrace back because we don't know details. It's in principle. It is not kind of fully in, but if this is an in principle move, we can expect the same type of move when it's officially, it's in. So there's a couple different places we can find it. We really need to retrace back down again, find better areas of buyers. But again, this is one of those ones that is super exciting for me as an educator, seeing a product like this with a 2-hour binary, because I absolutely love them. 9 strike prices is huge. You could have taken small risk on this one. And again, the trade is over now. But, just like the euro pound, I would like to see a little bit of a retracement to kind of go back to the original.
And if you saw a retracement, you would expect it to bounce either off this 138.40 or the 137.40 below that.
Yeah, for me, the 137.40 is a safer level. It's a higher time frame level. It's at the extreme of kind of the channel or the curve, as I call it, going back and forth. On the 1 hour, you can kind of see it as well. We have levels down here stepping in, but ultimately it is a 4-hour level, and I really like the way that this left. It based, it popped, it tried to come lower, and then that was the really big rally. And this was a huge move. This was 270 pips off of that level. So you need some power to be able to drive that far. So I think that's a decent level there.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and jump over, because we were talking about binary options. I want to show those on the Nadex platform. Here are those levels again. I mean, here's the one, roughly the 138.40 level, and we know that there's a level down below as well. But as Brian was mentioning, in fact, let's make this a little easier to see, and I'm going to move it down to this so we can actually see some of these strikes. There are a bunch of binary option levels, strike prices, these probabilities. When you see it making a move, I mean, here you can see earlier in the chart that monster move. In fact, let's kind of take a look at that. I mean, it went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 different strike price levels. These probabilities are going to be moving all over the place. It definitely creates short-term opportunity, and in the and you've got to take a look here in the pound yen.
Yeah, the 2 hours it actually blew through the top. It was right. It was about 30 pips above the top of those.
So I mean, you got to take a look at the different time frames that you've got. I think I was looking actually at one later in the day. You can look at something earlier in the day, and you'll get a different feel for some of the other. Right. I mean, there's going to be a lot more strike prices or levels in here that could be kind of interesting as well. So you got to pick your time frame, and you got to pick your levels. But if it's going to be moving like that, binary options certainly give you access in a very defined risk, defined reward way for quick short-term price movements, knowing that these contracts are, a one lot. It's a maximum of $100, and your potential profit, your potential loss, all known upfront. Very defined risk, defined reward, but a great way to access price action. If you liked what we were doing today, I would like to do this quickly because let's log out and jump over to the Nadex, and I just want to make sure. Good. Later today, Brian does this every Tuesday. We do this in the morning very, very quickly. But if you go to the learning section of our website, go to webinars, not only will you find our archive, but all of our upcoming webinars. And I'm going to tease out. We are coming next Thursday, the 17th. I am teasing out something is going to pop in there. We're doing a little day trading boot camp. So keep your eye open for that. But more importantly, for today, Brian does his weekly analysis. It's going to be in 2 hours and 45 minutes. You can register here and get a full-blown rundown of what's going on in the markets. Brian will cover all of our products. Brian, is there anything else that you wanted to put out that people might want to think about today?
Yeah, I mean, gold was a huge mover yesterday. I mentioned that I snuck it in at the very, very end last time. That watch gold, we were at that level. We were looking for a break above, and it did. It broke way above, so make sure you watch that. Also, keep an eye on oil today. Oil is starting to kind of slowly grind back down again. I think there could be some movement in oil in preparation for tomorrow's inventory report.
Excellent.
Those are my 2 things. Everything else you have to get at 12 today.
Yeah, come exactly. So come in a few hours, and you can catch up with Brian as he does a full-blown review. If you've got any questions for Nadex, customer service at nadex.com. Email us. We are here to help. The best way we can help you is if you let us know you need some help. Any questions you got, email us. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Definitely subscribe. You'll get notifications when we post more content, and we are constantly posting content. You can also set reminders for these daily sessions. They are the live streams, and you'll get a notification when we're going to be going live. You got any questions for Brian? Support at keeptradingsimple.com. So please feel free to reach out to Brian as well. He is accessible. With that, I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. Hopefully you got a lot. Keep an eye on those foreign exchange markets, particularly the euro pound and the pound yen. Hopefully we'll catch you in a couple hours at Brian's session, and then again tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central.